cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money. Dollar, dollar bill, y'all. All right, now that I've got my rap streak out of the way, let's talk about some cash game hands. I definitely have been playing a little bit of cash on the side as I play tournaments. Tournaments get kind of tough, man. Like, you bust a lot, and it's good to like get in on the cash streets and like make some money. So there's an interesting hand. This is a hand that actually involves Matt Berkey as well as myself. He sat with me in a 5-10 game at Aria while he was waiting for a seat in the big game. So hand plays out like this. Under the gun opens to $30 with 2K effective stack. Under the gun 2 calls with 3,500 effective stack. Middle position calls, button calls, and now Berkey's going to squeeze from the small blind to 200 with roughly 3K behind. Action's now on us in the big blind, and we have ace of clubs, ace of diamonds. So in general, I think that the standard play is to like cold 4-bet here a lot. Obviously, we have the best hand, but I think that a really cool play, or at least the one that I chose to do, was to flat. And the reason I flatted here is because I think under the gun is really incentivized to like 4-bet a decent amount of time. If under the gun can assume that Berkey is like, you know, probably splashing around, the game's a little too small for him, or potentially he's like overly merged from the small blind and we're capped by just having a cold call here, I think under the gun will have an aggressive 4-bet frequency in this formation. So because of that, I chose to flat. I think sometimes it'll go flat, 4-bet, and now we get to trap all that money in if Berkey decides to not believe the 4-bet, or if Berkey actually just has a real hand. And then we just pick up, you know, all this money. Unfortunately, that's not what happens. What does end up happening is the under the gun calls, under the gun 2 calls, middle position calls, but button folds. So we're going 5-way to the flop, and we get a pretty favorable one. So flop comes down 7 of clubs, 4 of clubs, 3 of clubs. So we have no repair and the nut flush draw. Berkey's going to choose to check. And now I think we have a decision between checking and betting. So I think that in general, like when we cold call here, we're going to have like king, queen of hearts. We're going to have like king, jack of hearts. We're going to have like some ace, queen of hearts, etc. Not only of hearts, but like just suits that are not the club. And all those hands are going to be incentivized to check. I don't think they want to start betting, obviously, in a 5-way pot. So I thought it was pretty cool to have aces with the ace of clubs as a check here in order to protect all those other hands that are going to want to check. And so we do choose to do that. We check. Under the gun is going to check. Now under the gun 2 is going to fire 600 into a pot of roughly 1,000. Action folds back to us, and now we have a decision whether we want to check call, check raise. Obviously, we're never folding. So I think the decision here is pretty face up. Like, I think that we should just be all in a lot. I think this gives a perception of the most bluff heavy range. If we had a hand like ace queen, ace of clubs, if we had a hand like ace king, ace of clubs, or ace king, king of clubs, etc., potentially we would be taking this line. It puts a lot of pressure on his hands like pocket tens, etc. So it's kind of nice to have a hand that is not necessarily a flush, but is rated to have the best hand as well as the best draw, and puts a lot of pressure on his overall range. So because of that, I chose to be all in. I think it looks the most bluff heavy, and he tanks for a long time, and he ends up calling. The run out comes out 3 of spade, king of clubs, and we show aces, ace of clubs. We ran it one time, and we scoop a massive one. So I think his range is probably something like pocket tens. That seems like the most logical of hands, maybe pocket tens with a club, something like that. But I thought it was a pretty cool hand. I thought that, you know, it was obviously a really big pot, and I thought it was a really interesting deviation. One, because Berkey's in the pot, as well as, you know, we have aces and we're going 5-way to a flop, never a good sign. But we got pretty lucky there, and we scooped the big one. So 1 for the team.